A
What's that
show.
from? Not a
It is barely a connection.
show. Correct. And today we're going to be talking about what's going on with the Serenity Prayer and what's at the heart of it, right? And more
And
other
more.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sundry.
Some,
Maybe we'll talk about what sundry means.
many.
Oh. Well, goodbye everybody. That's it.
This is not a show and might not even be a connection. Here's Judah and guest.
Judah and guest, and my guest tonight, of course, is you're not even a guest. I mean, you're sitting on the rocking chair itself and not a show.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just thought I saw this the Serenity Prayer. I saw the original posted today and thought it'd be interesting to talk about. The Serenity Prayer by Reinhold Niebuhr. What he's got a much longer name, doesn't he? It's like, what is his name?
I don't
I can't
know.
remember. It's like Edward Reinhold Niebuhr. I can't remember. But he for some reason wanted to go by Reinhold. Yeah. Tell us who Reinhold Niebuhr was. He's like a theologian, right? Sort of a modernistic theologian.
I don't know much about Niebuhr. He wrote Christ and Culture.
I and Thou. Didn't he do I and Thou? Karl Paul Reinhold Niebuhr. Karl Paul. He had 4 names.
Well, those Germans are funny. I and Now, I think you're thinking of Martin Buber, but
I'm thinking of Buber. Yeah.
The Hasidic Jew and scholar.
Niebuhr.
I like some Martin Buber. Reinhold, mainline Protestant theologian, mid 20th century.
Moral man in immoral society.
I don't know. We're gonna have to do a quick look up on Reinhold.
Well, I mean, I guess it's not that important, but yeah, if you can find something on,
maybe it could be. We're just American Reformed. He's considered Reformed. That's interesting.
Reformed theologian, an ethicist.
An ethicist, yeah. Nature and Destiny of Man. Yeah. I'm just trying. I don't remember him being involved with any particular movements. Yeah, he is associated with neo-Orthodox theology. Just kind of a writer.
Interesting.
Okay, I say kind of a writer. A lot of writing.
Yeah,
a lot of writing. And I was wrong. He did not write Christ and Culture. Definitely an essayist.
But the original Serenity Prayer.
But the way that most people know him, if they know where it comes from, like we could probably say, like his biggest impact is honestly the Serenity Prayer.
The Serenity Prayer.
Like, because even I had to stop and think. Oh well, the Times. I'm not sure when they said this posthumously. Called Niebuhr the greatest Protestant theologian in America since Jonathan Edwards.
Wow.
I don't. Maybe, I suppose. But yeah, as I think about it, the fact that I have to sort of stop and scratch my head, I would say, how has Mr. Niebuhr impacted me? It would have to be my exposure to the Serenity Prayer, to which he is given credit.
Yeah, and I've always appreciated the rest of the Serenity Prayer, and we talked a little bit about that off the air. So the whole thing is, God give me the grace to accept with serenity the things that cannot be changed, courage to change the things which should be changed, and wisdom to distinguish one from the other, living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking, as Jesus did, the sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Amen. And there's that what stuck out to me was enjoying every moment, living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace. I think there's some real beauty in that phrase, in that image of. I think that is the problem that I run into. And you were quoting earlier. You were quoting some Jack Sparrow, right?
Oh yeah. Little wisdom from Captain Jack. Yeah.
Yeah. What I feel like most of what I struggle with is trying to control things that I cannot. What was the Jack Sparrow quote you loved?
Yeah, the only thing that matters is the different. I'm gonna butcher it now. Yeah, the only thing that matters is what a man can do and what a man can't do. Which takes, it takes the shortened, kind of simplified version that most everybody is familiar with. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I think that, that little bit of wisdom from Captain Jack narrows it down even more, down to, well, there are things that I can do and there are things that I can't. And what matters is, am I doing the things that I can?
Yeah. Yeah, because I expend, inordinate amounts of energy on things that I can't control. And in the midst of that, neglect every moment that, my dad once said, don't dream the present away. And I once, that once hit me, and I thought, wow, I find myself, not necessarily with a specific dream of the future or dream of what I'm going to be, but what could be, and not even pertaining to me sometimes, thinking about the election and whatnot. Sports, you're not a big sports guy, right?
No.
But I am. Oh, we've got some viewers. Julie Dooley, thank you for the for hearting our video today.
Big heart.
Oh, and we have somebody in the chat. Sweet Benjamin Bell. Judah, that is me. Guess what? Laughy faces. And Cardinal Newman. I have no idea what any of that means.
Cardinal Newman reference.
Do you know who Cardinal Newman is?
Yeah.
Who is that? Does it pertain to the Serenity Prayer?
I don't know. That makes me wonder. Cardinal Newman was a 19th century Roman Catholic bishop who was a convert from Anglicanism. I think
Julie says, I love what your dad said. Thank you. Yeah. I think we get so focused on the what is it called when it's not the what's that called when you it's what could be instead of what is?
Well, it's definitely not enjoying the present moment to moment, right? I mean, we're projecting ourselves into the future. We're fantasizing, speculating. and we get not only the investment of our thoughts, but often the investment of like our emotion, our desires, and those are the things, emotions, desires that really fuel our motivation. And yeah, so I mean, it's tempting to waste those. On the other hand, it's difficult, like, right? I mean, like, you've got to think about the future. Like, if I'm going to build a house, I've got to think about what I want it to look like.
Yeah.
And then if I'm smart, I start to put those into a blueprint. But eventually, if you're going to do something, you've got to dig the foundation and, pour the footers and get to work. And I think that's one of the things that can be, I'm not sure if you've seen this floating around, and I probably need to find it so I don't misquote it. But there's been a little bit of pushback against what's perceived as a passivity embedded in the Serenity Prayer, and so people have flipped it to, I'm no longer going to accept the things I cannot change. I wish,
like, in other words, there is a critique of it that there's a passive, maybe ascribing, well, I can't change that, so I will not engage with it type attitude.
and pushing back against that that type of passivity. The quiet, almost quiet, what's called quietism.
Quietism. Just so, Fernando Gomez tuning in, and my mother-in-law, Tamara Stover, she said, watching from Indiana. Thanks for watching, Mom.
Hello, Fernando.
What is that last thing you said? What is that? You said a term there.
Quietism.
Quietism. What is quietism?
I'm probably a bit of a quietist. I'm gonna have to look that one up. We're gonna. So, in a nutshell, quietism is basically like, I'm not getting involved.
Sort of sitting this one out type mentality.
Yeah. And sort of in line. It's a purposed lack of engagement in the things of the world.
Ultimate pacifism, where you neglect to get involved. When so some say that what is it? Evil is done when good men sit it out, or something like that.
What is sit quietly or don't step up? Yeah, sure. The difficult thing, there is a place, and that's hard. I mean, there is a place to speak up, right? There's a place to advocate. There's a place to take action. The challenge becomes doing that well, right? I mean, like, so if we're in a situation where we're trying to change things that are really not in our power, what we end up doing is committing some act of violence, some form of coercion, some form of manipulation, some power play to create what we think should be in existence. So,
but by the same token, isn't building a cabin a form of violence? Chopping down a tree, you're forcing a tree into a different form. Creativity in general is manipulation, right?
A manipulation of inanimate objects, not manipulation of eternally precious and people, persons.
Well, right? Unless you're talking about movies or dance, right? I mean,
but see, where's the difference between like persuade? See, that's the difference between like persuasion, rhetoric, influence, and coercion, manipulation.
Okay. So the fine line between coercion and influence.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, Ford, Susan, and I had a discussion about the fine line between manipulation and maneuvering. The art of maneuvering for men, super important, and often we I feel like we neglect the maneuvering in fear of manipulation, and so we miss out on being able to use our talents and God-given abilities to maneuver in this world, and maneuver things. Dancing. Dancing, I think, is a good example, because especially in choreography, you're telling somebody where to step, where to go, right? And it's not coercion, as you're saying. It's an influence. It's a mutual submission.
There is, and there's a leading, right, and a following,
Yeah.
and but that's also sort of understood. So I mean, mass manipulation, personal manipulation. So if I know I'm manipulating somebody, is that maneuvering, right? If I know that, I can spin a story, and I know that there's a high probability of how a multitude of people are going to react, manipulation. Should I do that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, okay, so that gets into the idea of control, right?
Or power. I think,
Power,
and that's the thing.
power and
Like,
control.
so I mean, it's not absolutely. That's the difficult thing about manipulation. Manipulation is getting people to do willingly what I want them to do. The question becomes: do they do it knowingly?
Well, so then
do they do it informed? Do they do it with full consent?
Did you ever read Jay Haley's? He has like this little book on the manipulative tactics of Christ.
No.
Did Christ manipulate people? Did he influence them in a way? Does he continue to manipulate us in a way that he does what he wants us to do? All right. Well, I guess he asks.
I don't think so.
Well, yes. Yeah. I mean, the initial thought is, of course, not. But let's say, why not then? Why? Why not? Why doesn't he? So Jay Haley was saying that when he told, when he would do a miracle and he would tell people, don't tell anyone, his real intention was that they would tell everyone, knowing that when you tell someone not to tell anyone, the first thing they do is tell everyone,
some people have a propensity to not keep a secret. That's true. I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to hold the brevity of the Gospels to that kind of scrutiny.
Right.
Not to mention, I guess to me there's a lot tied up in this notion of, not notion, but like the reality of freedom. That we experience as human beings, and how, for whatever reason, despite my ability to conceptualize something else other than the freedom I've been given, I have it, and I've not been like forced, like I've not been put under the screws.
But see, put under the screws and forced is different than manipulation, is what I'm getting from you.
It is.
Is there such thing? So how there is righteous indignation. Is there righteous manipulation? If you manipulate someone to save their own life, is that righteous?
I think it's expedient. I think it's expedient, but I don't think it brings a full orbed amount of respect for a person.
Right. If you save their life for them.
Just because you can I think, and this is the thing I think is most damnable. If you know that you can take advantage of someone and you do it anyways, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I think when you know that you can, that just makes it worse. I mean, it's one thing if you're acting under, some level of impulse or compulsion to where, maybe you're not recognizing that you're manipulating somebody or that you're using coercion in some or power in a way to bring into being what you want to see. But when you know that you are, and I'll be honest, I honestly think that's one of my biggest beefs with our current president. He is a master of mass manipulation. He's really good at it and has a lot of plausible deniability when he does it. And it's one of those things that, yes, from one vantage point politically, you go, wow, that's really savvy. And then there's another aspect that I go, that's dangerous.
Scary, right?
And to me, it's highly culpable. I don't think I personally don't think it's admirable. Because I can think of just in the 20th century, there are a number of people that were really masters of it, and we won't name their names. Not saying that our president has those types of ill intent. However, the means don't justify
the process.
Right. Not a fan. Not a fan. But anyways, back to Serenity Prayer. And away from manipulation and other Machiavellian traits.
Well, I think they're intertwined in the sense that as I progress in age and stage of life, the desire to be able to make things happen, right? You haven't seen Little Big Man? You got to see Little Big Man.
Sorry,
but he said, the old Indian chief is he's dying. He says, he's praying to his God, whatever it is. He says, grant me the power to make things happen as you once did when I was young. And he's asking that he could. He's trying. It's kind of a humorous, but it's endearing because he's tired. He says, "I'm tired of this world." And he so he wants to give up his spirit. He lays down. And he says, am I still in this world? but grant me the power to make things happen. I'm at that stage. I'm at that stage of life, or I'm nearing where I start. What is the Erickson stage? Generative. Yeah, generativity. Am I making things happen?
Am I making a mark, right?
Am I making a mark? Yeah, going back to what we talked about before, and maybe a common topic here on Not a Show. It's hard because you see people that control and
or have I think this is the important distinction. Have the appearance.
Okay.
Have the appearance of control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say more about that.
So perception, right? So I mean, you see somebody like, man, they've really got it together.
Yeah.
Well, what is that based on? Like that notion, and the reason why I bring that up is I've been reading a book recently called The Black Swan.
It's a good book.
Have you read that?
No. But my brother has.
Nicholas.
Nikolai, isn't it Nikolai?
I've got it right here. Extreme close up.
Oh,
Yeah,
hello
Nassim
there.
Nicholas Taleb.
Okay,
Boom.
Nicholas did. Yeah.
And just a fascinating study in evidence and probabilities um, but I think that's just a great example when you see somebody that's in control, right, or that has a level of perceived power. Like, how much of that is true? Like, we're driving home after having these family photos done, and my daughters are asking questions about what a lame duck president can and cannot do, and I just, I just say it over again. I'm like, guys, the executive office is overrated. He just doesn't have that much power. Like, most of that is perception. It really is. It's not real power. I mean, the vast majority of power is in Congress. If they, could wield
Work
it.
together.
If they could, yeah. I mean, that's really where things can happen. The judiciary is, within certain limits, extremely powerful. We've experienced that in the last 10 years. The executive office really, I mean, yeah, I think it's a little too big for its own pants.
Well, it's funny because my kids were actually the same thing. My kids were asking, well, and Chanda asked me, what does the executive branch do? And I said, well,
and they execute.
Well, they are the commander-in-chief of the army.
True.
And that is their foremost, that is the president's foremost job description. And then the management of daily government, I would say, right? The head and leader
is the
daily
head,
government.
but I mean, that's been all distributed throughout these other three-letter agencies.
Yeah.
But
the illusion
level,
of see, now here's my problem with talking about the illusion of control is that there has to be some tangible assertion of success, right? Like, when we see success,
how do you measure that?
That is a good question, but just because we can't measure it, does that mean it doesn't exist?
Well, no, I don't say I didn't say we can't. I said how.
Oh well, yeah.
How do we measure success? Right? Yeah. Because I mean, there certainly are levels of influence, right? Like, people have power because they have a platform. But then there's just simply monetary success. I mean, that's obviously money is an easy metric. Wealth is an easy metric.
Well,
because it's
not just easy. It is. That's what it was invented for. It's a tangible metric for success, right?
Well, no, it's a means of exchange, but
no, it is a demarcation of work. You, instead of trading services, you trade services for a certificate of exchange.
It's a means of exchange.
Yeah.
It's not a level of success. It's a level of money.
Well, of some success. You don't just get it from, you can steal it, but still that's success of some.
Yeah, but I mean, success in what way? Other than the fact that you have a lot of it. A lot of people make a lot of money off of pure dumb luck. Not skill, not perseverance, not hard work.
There is something to be said about the success of luck. My grandfather used to say, the harder I work, the luckier I get.
Well, sure. And I think that's one of the chief arguments, though, about Black Swan is like, there are a lot of hugely successful events that had nothing to do with hard work, perseverance. I mean, they were really blind. I mean, truly blind, chaotic luck. Highly improbable events that had significant consequences, both negative and positive.
Give me some examples. And my brother talked a lot about this. About how
9/11 is one. I mean, the stock market's full of them. But I think this is the difficult thing about the notion of success. Like, that's got to be something that has to be specifically defined, uniquely for every person, because if it's solely about money, then that's not about success. That's about wealth accumulation.
Yeah.
And success
absolutely.
is equivalent to wealth accumulation. But if that's the case, then we won't call it success. We'll just call it wealth accumulation. Or how wealthy are you? How good, how much wealth have you amassed? Am I successful in achieving a particular specific goal? I saw it, and I think as fathers, I'll have trouble looking it up, and I'll butcher the C.S. Lewis quote, but it was something along the lines of, and I'll try to paraphrase, like children aren't getting in the way of the big goals or the important things in life. Like children are the big goals and the important things in life. We can really lose touch and sight of what it means to be successful as fathers, right? Successful as husbands, successful as friends,
absolutely,
successful as followers of Christ. In the realm of business, I think we got to get very specific. Like, you've got to, if we measure success over too long of a period of time, I could see that as being highly demoralizing. If starting a business was a success, well, that's good. If that business continued to prosper, that would be good too. But I don't think
there are different. Yeah, there are different expressions of success. However, okay. So Nathan says, thanks for tuning in, man. Thanks to Julie and Benjamin and
thank you,
Mama Tamara.
Nathan.
Nathan. If money equals success, success is overrated. Well, I mean, what
money is really good for money problems.
The great Will Smith, in the character of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, once said, "Money ain't everything, but it's right up there with oxygen." No, what did he say? Something like that.
Right up there with oxygen, right up there with water. Well, money can be very useful.
Yeah.
Money can be an awful trap.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, which isn't to say don't go get some money. But again, like some of the freest people I have read about and met are monks.
Yeah.
They're
zero money.
They're high, yeah. I mean, relatively, right? I mean, even then, like within a monastery, it's still, you got to keep the lights on. So it's a little.
Well,
tricky.
I was going to say, but see, they're subsidized by someone. Just because they aren't making the money doesn't mean somebody isn't for them.
That's true.
It's not like they're living in a hut that they made with sticks, right?
There are those.
There are?
I don't know any personally, but
there were, right? I mean, Francis of Assisi is the primary example.
Oh yeah, no, there have been tons of Christian hermits and monks over the ages that have literally begged or traditionally, like the start of Christian, well, it's not really the start, but the flourishing of Christian monasticism in Egypt, like the time of St. Anthony. So we're talking like late second, early third century. They were basket weavers. Like a lot of them were basket weavers. That's how they made their own living. But then they basically only took the proceeds from the sales of baskets to just feed themselves and gave the rest away. And then made more baskets. Because you can pray while you make baskets. It's a prayerful exercise, prayerful craft.
But to get
success.
The idea of the Serenity Prayer.
Yes.
What can I control?
Mm-hmm.
And I think success is an important aspect of that question, right? Because we do not. I mean, success is the measure of what we've done well.
Mm-hmm.
So when I ask myself, what can I control? I think the opposite of success to me, and this is the point for me, is that the opposite of success is when when I think that success is controlling things that I cannot control, or manipulating things that I cannot control, or depending on things that I can't control. Just like the opposite of success.
Well, yeah, I think it just depends on how. So, if you define success as what you've done well, right? Like, that's a historical measure. So I'm looking backwards and I'm trying to identify the things that I did that I can say I did well.
Yeah.
I don't think that has anything to do with what you can't control. There's a certain level of chaos. There's a certain level of chaos. Things that are outside of our, like how did I respond? Like what did I do in the midst of the moment? If that is the measure, then success is really something that becomes fairly attainable, right? Like about just simply doing it well. I think maybe one way to look at this could be, what would it take to feel successful?
That's a good way. Yeah.
I mean, and so not so much in a backwards looking fashion, but like, what would it take for me to feel successful now? What do I need to do to feel successful? Now? What do I need to be doing on a regular basis to feel successful?
Well, speaking of success, Joe Kreiner.
Hello from Tulsa.
Hello from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Successful dude. I like this guy. And another guy I like, of course, is Nathan. I guess what I'm saying is that, yes, money is useful, but I feel more successful now than I did a year ago. And I am making, as we are making as a household, half of what I did last year. Yeah. In fact, I loved being able to not worry about money for once in my life, but I hated the imprisonment that came with it. And I think that's and Joe Prince says, hey. But Nathan, I think that is key, because and I get what you're saying. If money is, so money alone, right? If you are trading your life for money and all you have is a stack of paper, green paper, then there's no success in that, right?
But again, I go back to like how is it that you define success? And maybe even if like success is a measure, but then I think there's got to be something to be said for a sense of success, a feeling of success. Like,
well, okay. Well, is there a difference though between pleasure and success? So I could feel pleasure by not working.
Yeah. But do you feel accomplished at not working?
No.
Do you feel fulfilled at not working?
No.
Do you feel complete?
So the balance between, so success is somewhere, you're not successful if you're working so hard. You know, in the same way my dad said, don't dream your present away.
Sure.
You know, you don't want to work your present away either. Although I have to say, there's more, you leave behind more if you work your present away. Like you can pass, you know, speaking of legacy, what we were talking about before, you can pass.
There is the opportunity for stuff, but I keep hearing you talk about this global success.
Okay.
This nebulous global success. And I'm not sure if I'm really hearing like what's the standard? Like what's the basis of the standard? Success on whose terms? Success compared to what? Success compared to whom?
Well, success is intrinsically personal, right?
Maybe.
I think it's absolutely intrinsically personal, because all depends on the person's personal goals, right? Success.
I think that's one
comes
way to
down.
look at it. I'm going to play the devil's advocate on the other side of this one for a bit.
Well, how else?
Because I'm not hearing that from you. I'm not hearing Judah saying, the story that I'm hearing isn't, man, I'm really struggling with feeling that I am successful. What I hear is a story of I don't quite get the notion that I'm successful. Based on what?
Well, yeah, well, that's a good question. And that's the thing that I'm struggling most with these days is if I had a rubric, I would follow it. My biggest struggle today is defining success. That is my number one. And I think you've identified that.
It sounds too global to me. It sounds just too big to make it like manageable.
It's global to me right now because I have no idea what it is.
Like, what do I got to do tomorrow?
I have no idea what success it looks like,
for you.
For me. Well, I don't believe there's any other success.
Okay.
Right? I mean, you can't define success for somebody else.
Well, if I compare my success, say, to, I don't know, Elon Musk, I'm going to lose every time.
But that's still success based on your criteria.
Well, sure. That's certainly based on my criteria. I'm just using a comparison because let's just be honest. Like, we compare ourselves. We do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. But, and I guess, but see, the thing is about success. So you're talking about achievement. I'm talking about success. Like success is if I have achieved what I have deemed important. And I just don't know what is like, I know my family is important, right? So that's not something to sniff at. However, it gets fuzzy, right? And as a father, it's like, well, at what point, getting back to the idea of control, how much control do I have over it?
It approaches zero.
So if you have so that's my big question. If you have no control, can you have success?
It's not none. It's not none.
Okay.
But it's not as much as we think it is either.
Oh, yes.
There's a very limited amount of, and it's not really control. Like, if anyone with a child realizes anything very quickly, you cannot control them.
Well,
you can't. You can. At best, you can restrain them.
You're right.
At best, you can restrain them.
Yeah.
If you believe in corporal punishment, there is a limit. There is a limit to how much you can discipline a child.
It gets it's like an exponential lack of control, right? The more you spank, the more less control you.
To be dark and morose. Other than restrain. My mother would say things to me like this. I'll throw this on my mother. I brought you into this world, and I can take you out.
Yeah.
Now my mother was from New Jersey. And she could say things like that because it was a little scary. So there are limits. Success, the accomplishment of an aim or purpose. We're just going to pull the dictionary out here for fun.
Okay, wait, put a pause to that real quick. Joe Priner says people correlate success with money. That's how I feel nowadays. I see
with people.
Yeah. That's how I feel nowadays. Explain yourself. That's how I feel nowadays. I see with people. That people correlate success with money. Well, that is the easy way. So Ben says, Ben Gray, thanks for joining us, brother. Do you remember Ben Gray, Toccoa guy? Looking at his face closely.
That's the hard thing. We're all older. This brother's got a beard and a ball cap on.
Yeah, he didn't have a beard back then, I don't think. He says, success to me is seeing a goal and achieving it, regardless of what that goal is.
Sure.
Any goal. Success to me is, goals are based on situation.
Mm-hmm.
Each person has their own
Big goals, tiny goals, medium goals.
any kind of goal. And the biggest mistake I made was making my life about super attainable goals.
Right. Well, okay, I see what you're saying. Like rather than like a stretch goal or
Yeah, I reached my goal too early. And when I reached my ultimate goal was to get married and have awesome kids. Done.
Okay.
Now what?
Get a new goal.
And yeah, it's not that easy, man. It took 40 years to accomplish that.
We can get you some goals.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sure there's.
All right.
Like
Well, what you had a dictionary definition.
Ben hit it. I mean, it's basically I mean, success as far as like goal attainment. But I hear you, like, right? So like we got married, we had kids.
Yeah.
What next? Like, what's the next thing? What's the next goal?
Yeah.
Or, and we're all friends here, so I'm just going to be blunt. Like Judah McNeil. Judah McNeil works like a Haitian. He works like 3-4 different jobs. But one thing that Judah and I both know is Judah's not the best businessman.
No, absolutely.
So
you are right
I'm
about that.
I'm just gonna say this.
Yeah.
My goal for you, Judah, which is none of my, I shouldn't have goals for Judah, but I am today.
Hey,
fun.
It's not a show, so
It's not a show. It's barely a connection. Is that Judah becomes a better businessman in the next year?
Yeah.
That
okay.
Like you're already honing your crafts, right? I mean, like
Yeah.
there are things that you provide or do or create for other people that are of value,
Mm-hmm.
and there needs to be systems and procedures and boundaries in place that help ensure that Judah gets paid well for his crafts.
I get that. And I feel like
Equals success.
See, that goes back to the money aspect of success. I'm looking for something deeper.
No, money is just a byproduct of becoming a better businessman.
Say more.
So developing processes, developing systems, developing and creating, maintaining boundaries, exerting influence, maneuvering, not manipulating, maneuvering, right?
Maneuvering.
Becoming a better businessman, a better business person.
Yeah.
Is the goal. The byproduct of that goal is probably, but not necessarily, probably more money.
Interesting.
And that's the difference between greed and pursuing a virtue.
Let's come back to that.
Sure.
Because Beth
Hello,
says,
Beth.
"Hi, hey Beth, glad you're tuning in. Thank you for joining the conversation." And Sal, this is important. I love Sal. He's one of my favorite people in the world. And Sal says, "Success can also be your life's spiritual purpose, a calling that awakens a deep desire and passion to live with a sense of purpose for something greater than yourself. We all have spiritual purpose, but not all of us pursue it because it seems to become more unrealistic with age." Which is interesting to me, Sal. I see where you're going with that. Or I get what you're saying. I like that. The problem with age for me, Beth says Clearbrook misses you. I worked with her, Clearbrook. But Sal, to get back to the idea, the spirituality of my success is getting, Josh, both of us talked, you sort of enlightened me in this area, is like honing our craft, and the spiritual aspect of our success becomes, I think, more important as we get older. Now, as a teenager, reaches, that stage in your 20s, the spiritual aspect sort of takes it back. It tends to the detriment of the person, I think, takes a back seat, right? Sal's somebody who's, in his early 20s.
And I appreciate Sal's wisdom. I think the older I get, the clearer spiritual purpose becomes for me.
Yeah.
Like I'll just use from my own experience, the way it's kind of started out really big, and the older I've gotten, I'm getting the screen here, it's gotten more focused, as time has gone on. But
spiritual purpose. Spiritual purpose. Well, to me, spiritual purpose, maybe Sal, you can elaborate a little bit more on what you mean about spiritual purpose. To me, spiritual purpose, spiritual to me has everything to do with connection. Who are you connected to? Who are you moored to? Where is your anchor hooked into? But not a physical anchor. It is an unseen anchor, right? Spirituality is a connection.
Okay.
If you're connected to other people, there's a spiritual connection.
See,
but
I'm such a behaviorist. And so spirituality, like,
yes,
I don't know if there's one out there in the ether, for psychologically and sociologically and anthropologically minded folk. My thing about spirituality isn't so much about connection, nor is it about belief in a higher power. My thing about spirituality is show me what you do.
What?
Show me what you practice. Show me what your spiritual practices are. Tell me what you do. Like, and so like what? Yeah, I know. I'm crazy. Spiritual purpose, right? So I mean, I guess I look at this as like, how do I exercise spiritual gifts?
I can see that. So the physical manifestation of a spiritual life.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, because everyone can sit around and say I'm spiritual, but what do you do? What do you do?
What distinguishes spirituality from selfishness
or whatever? You meet a Buddhist monk, brother says he's spiritual, and you're like, well, show me what you do. He'll show you. He'll show you. He ain't gonna talk about it. Ultimately, he gonna show you. We in the West, we do a lot of this. Too much bark, not enough bite. It just, I don't know. Anyway,
Ben agrees with you.
Thank you, Ben.
He says, show your spirituality by what you do.
By what you do. Because honestly, like if I stop and I start to measure my spirituality by anything else other than what I do, it's just it's puffed up. It's pride.
Well, depends. I mean, I believe that spirituality is that connects us. And so it connects us to God. It connects us. It gives us meaning, right? So you can say, show me what you do.
Yeah.
But it's hard to show. Oh, well, okay. Well, so love is the ultimate. Yes. In the sense that love is the ultimate spiritual example and manifestation,
sure.
right?
Well, I guess
you cannot show love without doing.
I guess I make some really fine distinctions between things like meaning making or faith, dogma, love, spirituality. And like a lot of times when I hear that term, it's often, I'm spiritual but not religious. Again, I just want to say, well, what do you do? Now, if somebody says, well, I practice yoga, well, I go, okay, well, that's what you do. That is your spirituality. Where you put your time, where you put your effort, where you exercise yourself.
The change that you effort. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And this notion that we can separate spirituality from the body, I think is untenable. Personally, that's just me.
Interesting. We'll come back to that.
Convince me otherwise.
Sal says, Salvador says, I mean, I mean it in the sense that when you're younger, you feel you can accomplish anything. And when you age, some people distance themselves from their true purpose in life. Yeah. My greatest fear is having the ghosts of what ifs, FOMO, if you will, watching over me on my deathbed. The what ifs. What did I not do? Yeah. And what is it the saying? Nobody ever dies saying, I'm glad I didn't try that. Right. I think that does make sense.
It does make sense, Sal.
And I would say that I think we've talked about this, Joshua, in the sense that as we get older, it comes back to that saying by Chief Lodgkins in the movie I was talking about.
I've got to watch
it. He says, you've got to grant me the ability to make things happen as it was in my youth. You know, the idea that youth is wasted on the young, you know, like you have all this energy and ability, and without the perspective and wisdom to know what to do with all that.
Yeah.
There's something real about that.
I suppose there is. And I guess I don't regret that.
Say more.
I don't grieve that. Now that I'm older, those things, like if I had some power as a young person, I was dumb. About the only thing that probably could have happened is that like worse things could have happened from my perspective. And now that I'm older and wiser, and I look at, because we're middle-aged men, we're rounding
over the hill.
The hill, right? So I can see that, like, wow, if God would bless me with another 40 years, that'd be pretty cool. And
that'd be enough time.
That would be more than enough time to do whatever it is that I'm here to do.
Okay, that's a good question to me. Grant me the serenity to know what I can control and what I can't control.
Yeah, to accept the things I cannot change. I cannot change. Change.
That is the interesting
40 years of what got me here.
So I think that's key. It doesn't say accept what I can't control. We can still change things.
That's true, but the things that I cannot change are also things outside of my control. I cannot change the price of tea in China. I cannot change anything that happened in the past. There are things I can change. I can change the way I treat my children. I can change the way I talk to my wife. I can change the way I do business. I can change what time I get up in the morning. I can change my routine in the morning. I can change what I eat. All those things I can change.
Yeah.
And the confusion is I sit on my chair and I think about all this other stuff that I cannot change. Possibly. And then the last part, the wisdom to know the difference. Because if we're honest, when it gets down to like the nitty gritty, it can get really complicated. Like, well, how much of this can I change? Like my children, right? How much of my children can I change?
Yeah, that was a huge realization for me. Is I realized there's very little I can do. I can give them tools. I can give them knowledge. I can shape their character in certain ways, but I cannot make their decisions for them. And that was scary. Whew. When they're young, that's pretty freaking scary.
Yeah.
I can't, when I'm not around, I can't make them decide not to run into the road.
But I can build a fence.
But I can build a fence.
Right.
I mean, yes.
I can set boundaries. I can reward when they
those are limited abilities, but yeah.
But see,
Well,
now see, you're saying they're limited, but are they? Is that maybe the maximal thing I can do? Like, I live on a busy road. I can build a fence. I can talk to my kids about not running in the road. I can reward them when they don't run in the road. I can create known. There's all kinds of ways that I can structure how we live to help keep them safe.
Right.
And it's not like that's the only thing I can do. It's like that's what I can do, and I've got to do.
And that's
it
what I can
with
do.
A lot of
I guess,
intention and a lot of
Yeah, except that doesn't allay my fears. That is I guess when I say it's limited by time, right? Like the fence will keep them in here for a time.
Yes.
And eventually they'll be old enough and big enough to
jump over the fence
and go out and jump over the fence.
Yeah.
They eventually will drive, and I cannot keep them from taking chances on the road. I cannot.
No. Just like every time I go in my car, I have no control over what other people do.
That is true.
I never did. Yeah, the fact that I don't have any control over that.
Well, and my good recently have been getting to know a good interesting guy, a really good guy, counselor, Tony Witt. He said in a recent video he put on his Facebook, is there anything I can do about it? Should be the first question. Is there, so not about control. That is about control, right? But it puts it in a real, like, practical sense. Is there anything I can do about it? If there is, what can I do? If there isn't, that's when you say that, Lord, give me the wisdom to surrender it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Serenity
Prayer. I surrender to your will.
Yeah.
So that I may be reasonably happy in this life. So that way I'd stop being afraid. Trusting that you will make all things right. Accepting hardship as a pathway to peace.
Accepting hardship as a pathway to peace. That's kind of the enigmatic piece of that prayer that I don't understand. I mean, I understand it to a certain extent, but what is the direct correlation between hardship and peace?
And trust. Yeah, between acceptance and trust and peace. Yeah, because I have to believe that God's in control.
Yeah.
Like, beyond the chaos, He's in control.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we spend a lot of time trying to make sense of it and make meaning out of it. And I think to a certain degree that's appropriate. And then there's another aspect of, like, radical acceptance.
Yeah.
Like, I just accept that you've got this. Though you slay me, yet I will trust you.
Right.
I've got a little brass. It's a Roman Catholic religious medallion, and on one side I think is like St. George the Martyr. On the other side is the apostles and Jesus in the boat on the Sea of Galilee in the storm. In the Latin, like a rough Latin translation, is literally safe in the storm. It's not, all puppy dogs and unicorns and fairies and dreams, right? It's like, you want to talk about real connection. It's I'm with Jesus in the boat in the storm, and I trust that I'm safe. That's a hardcore faith. Though you slay me, yet I will trust you. Brother Job, bringing the truth.
Well, Yeah, Job. Yeah. Jesus slept when he was in the storm, right?
Yeah.
And when he woke up, what did he say to his apostles?
He
He
always says
said,
something really witty, like, "What are y'all worried about?"
well, he said, why are you afraid? Do you
Yeah,
still
why are
have
you
no
afraid?
faith?
Why are y'all wigging out?
Even the wind and the waves obey him. So, yeah, why are you afraid?
Why are you wigging out?
Why are you afraid?
Don't wig
Yeah.
out. Just trust me some more.
This is not the time to be afraid when nature is against us. The time to be afraid is when you're against yourself, right? Something like that. Or when you don't, well, when you're unmoored. Yeah. Okay. Here it is. Here it is.
The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, there are healthy forms of love. There are toxic forms of love. There's obviously some unhealthy forms of fear. There are healthy forms of fear. But, I guess, hearing about success and fear, and it's just like, we have to start with a clear goal, right? I mean, like, and we're creeping on a new year, and God willing, 2021 will be slightly different than 2020. Though I guess I'm sick. I'll be honest, and then I know my people have been complaining about 2020, the year. I'm not. I can't down the time that's been given to me.
Right.
Yeah, if I have any regret, it's what I've done with it, not the environment that I find myself in. And frankly, despite some of the complaining I hear, 2020 has been actually miraculously good for me. So I'm not complaining personally.
Okay.
Yes, there are lots of stressful things, but there's been a lot of good things too. So I mean, there's always room for Thanksgiving and praise and gratitude to God. Anyway, soapbox.
Well, Nate says,
Brother
peace
Nate.
only comes through knowing God is in control.
And it's a moment-to-moment thing.
It's And Salvador says, perhaps the hardship is the mental challenge you have to persevere. Ooh, the hardship is getting through that moment. The discipline, right? That's what discipline is.
Discipline,
hardship,
perseverance, patience.
Yeah, the light at the end of the tunnel, patience. And Nate says, as the three amigos said before the fiery furnace, our God can save us.
Yeah.
But even if he doesn't, we still won't bow.
That'll be
Shadrach,
okay too.
Meshach,
and Abednego.
Abednego.
Yeah. Even our God will save us, and if He doesn't, that's cool. That'll be okay. We'll still go in the flames and sing while we're doing it.
I think I think that helps. I think what you guys are talking about, to me, I think is important. The discipline, the mental hardship, the persevering is the means of success.
It is
the work.
It is the work. Again, like that's what I'm saying. Like if you make it your goal to be a better businessman, like that's
You're obsessed with me being a better businessman.
Of course I am.
Okay.
It's an achievable goal, right?
Yeah.
And it's bettering yourself as a person.
Yeah.
Like that's the goal, bettering yourself as a person. The side effect of that could be more money. It might not be, but it could be. And we will all thank the Lord for Jim making a little more money. Yeah, I saw something, I can't remember, on Instagram, and there's something to be said for it. It was like, make it your goal to become a millionaire. And the purpose of that wasn't so that you would have $1 million. The purpose of the challenge was, think of the person that you will have to become to make $1 million.
Okay. However, if
it's done virtuously, right? Like
I was going to say, that's my difficulty.
Like doing it virtuously.
To go back to what Nathan said, sure, I could become a millionaire if I gave up every minute of every hour to some endeavor that I had no love of.
And you don't need to do that. Would that be virtuous, right? Would that be virtuous?
Right. Yeah, virtue. Yeah, we didn't really talk enough about virtue.
It's in there. But I mean, becoming a better businessman would be virtuous.
Yeah.
Making agreements with people, holding people to those agreements, holding yourself to those agreements. There's an aspect of integrity there. There's wisdom creating systems and routines. Yada, yada,
creating
yada,
systems,
yada.
But I think that's important. The maneuvering aspect of our lives as men and women, for me, particularly as men, because I'm a man. I'm more curious about what is it that I need to do to maneuver as a man in a virtue in a virtuous way.
Yeah, and I'm curious what you mean by maneuver. What would that look like?
The art of maneuvering, right, is it harkens to the art of war.
Okay.
All right. The art of war actually talks about the art of maneuvering, but with the intention of destroying. The art of maneuvering speaks of maneuvering having to do with the movement we do, right? The back to your idea of spirituality. What are we doing? The movements we make towards virtue or success. Are we making the right movements? The art of maneuvering, right?
Okay.
So not to destroy people. The art of war is to destroy the other person.
Yeah. I'm just going to say that at least this has been my own personal struggle, and I think it's a struggle of a lot of people. It's just we're not in motion. Like before we even talk about maneuver, we just got to get in motion. We got to do something.
Get in motion.
Got to do something.
Yes, Sanderson, the sci-fi writer, says it's not. What did he say? People talk about the first step. It's not the first step. It's the second step, and then the third step, and then it's the continuing steps that keeps us in motion.
Yeah,
not the first step.
Yeah, you got to keep it.
One step does not equal motion. Yeah,
and then we can start talking about maneuver, like shifting, pivoting.
Yes,
changing position.
Oh, Jim Pass in. Yes, you made it, Jim. Jim says Paul basically stated that he had learned to be satisfied with whatever he had. So the goal isn't the amount, it's the journey or the process, right?
Yeah, I think if Paul had one overarching goal, it was to preach the gospel to the Gentiles, or to a whole bunch of Gentiles. Obviously, he didn't preach to all the Gentiles, but he certainly preached spread the gospel to a heap, as we say here in the South, of Gentiles.
Yeah, heap load of Gentiles.
A heap load.
Well, we need to talk more about this. I'm sure it'll come up again.
Sure.
Man, I really appreciate Juan Alcantar leaving us a heart. Julie, of course, we talked about Julie being a part. She had great comments. And Jim, Pass, Nathan Solger, Beth, thank you for tuning in. Ben left us Ben, and of course Salvador. Thank you so much. And Mama Stover for being in for watching and for partaking and for being in our discussion. I think I'm beginning to understand what it means to be. Dave Tackett says, "Is it over? Did I arrive too late?" I'm afraid you did.
Sorry, brother Dave.
So we normally meet between the times of 8 and 9 Eastern time on Wednesdays, if anybody wants to join us. But these are posted for posterity on Facebook and YouTube until the powers that be deem them unnecessary or what have you. So, but thank you everybody for joining us. I feel like I appreciate the discussion, Joshua, and as always, I think I've gained a better perspective and a new approach to the Serenity Prayer as far as spirituality and what success is, redefining success, and apparently my business acumen.
And clarifying it, right? I mean,
Clarifying, yeah.
Focusing, clarifying.
Focus like
narrowing.
A laser. Okay. So now the chat's blowing up. Dave says, God grant me the serenity to change the things I can't.
Was wah. I'm not sure.
I don't get it.
That's okay.
Was wah a thing? I don't know.
I don't know.
It should be. It's kind of cool. Sal says there's a quote that goes, when you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. This quote means it's not going to be easy. The world is going to challenge you, and you gain more knowledge in the process. That's interesting, Sal, because there's also a quote that says the universe aids the journeyman. Back to I don't know if it was you. It was Jim that talked about the journey, and Paul on the journey. That and whenever I hear the universe, I think it is God. There's I believe in God, and there is an aspect of the universe in the sense of the processes that God has set forth. The wind is not necessarily God, but God set forth the wind, right? And the wind is either at our back, or against us. But that's to say, I've always liked that quote that the universe aids the journeyman, and it kind of goes along with all the universe conspires in helping you achieve it. When you want something, it's that process, it's the journey. As long as we start, what you said, Joshua, is about getting in motion. Just wanted to end things. It's a good quote to leave us off on, and does not mean it's going to be easy. Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you, Salvador. Thank you, David, for joining us late, and Jim. Thank you for tuning in. Ben, everybody who joined in, Joe Priner, and Benjamin Bell with your enigmatic Cardinal Newman statements. We love you, and tune back in next week as we talk about. Ooh, what should we talk about? Let's set it in stone now.
Are we really gonna pick that now as opposed to 30 minutes before we jump on the air?
Yeah, I think we should. What? I think we should talk about work.
Work.
Yes. What is work, and how does it play into not just the human, not just the life of a man, but it goes into the idea of journey, but work. Will there be work in heaven? This kind of thing, what is work?
Otherworldly speculations.
Okay.
What is work?
Yeah. What is work?
We'll play. We can play in that field for a
while. We've got another quote. Life before death strength before weakness, journey before destination. What is that from? That's good. I like that. Some great quotes coming out at the end here. Good quotes to leave us on. Journey before destination. And with that, with the universe conspiring to help you achieve in this journey, we say to God, everybody, good night.
Good night, everyone.
This is the part where you say something.
Oh yeah, like y'all be good.